Aaravos' primary target thus far has been Viren in The Dragon Prince. It's Viren who yearns for the wisdom and power Aaravos offers him. It's Viren who is so insecure that Aaravos has an easy time manipulating him. For centuries, Aaravos has been trapped, but now he has a chance to escape, and all because of Viren. However, it would not be quite right to say that Viren is the only member of his family who is vulnerable to Aaravos' manipulations. Claudia has thus far been as alarmed by Viren's little bug pal as Soren, but as Aaravos grows closer to completing his master plan, it's wrong-headed to think that he won't try to tempt her as well. And it's wrong-headed to think that she would not be vulnerable to these manipulations. There are two major reasons for this. The first is that Claudia is proceeding down an increasingly dark path. The second is that as Viren continues to deteriorate, he will become increasingly useless to Aaravos, while Claudia's growing power makes her a more appealing target. But let's start with the first reason. Claudia's descent into darkness is one of the most chilling aspects of Season 3, but it's also one of the most affecting aspects of the season. I have compared her to Azula in the past, but honestly, her moral deterioration is much sadder. Azula was always like she is, at least from what we see in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, this does not mean she was destined to become an ominous villain. Her abusive father, Ozai, undoubtedly had some influence on why she became a cold-hearted antagonist. Instead of the awkward but somewhat empathetic person she shows flashes of being in episode 305 of Avatar, The Beach. However, Azula was always a little twisted. Even as a little kid, she is clearly not alright. However, Claudia is different. Callum knows Claudia. Callum likes Claudia. Callum's biggest crush from the time he was a child all the way up to the start of Season 3 of The Dragon Prince is Claudia. She's not crazy. She's not manipulative. Sure, she may exhibit a strange willingness and eagerness to suck the magic out of creatures in order to use it for her own dark magic, but in earlier seasons that is more of a questionable character quirk than anything actively malevolent. Sure, she may say questionable things about dark magic, but that does not necessarily mean she is going to become this all-powerful villain. However, she lacks awareness, and she lacks compassion for the outside world. She likes where she is, being respected because of her status, and receiving her father's appreciation. Whereas Viren views Soren as a liability at best, he views Claudia as something of a perfect child. She wants to retain the status quo, whatever it takes. That she cares exponentially more about the people she knows than about everyone else in the world is very clear. She doesn't care who needs to be sacrificed if it means the people she cares about are protected. We see her sacrifice a deer at the end of Season 2 in order to heal Soren's paralysis. She loves Soren. She really does. But when Soren asks her to leave with him in the middle of Season 3, she cannot bring herself to do it. She does not want to choose between her father and her brother, but if she has to, she will choose her father. As such, her loyalty to her family, ostensibly a positive attribute, is twisted into a negative one. Some have said that it's unrealistic that she would be okay with Viren turning the entire army into dark magic zombies, but I think that is a severely short-sighted viewpoint. Sure, she's far from the cruelest person in the world, but she's been alright with all her father's wrongdoings up to this point. She's been alright with him making war, and she's been alright with all the dark things he's done with dark magic. If anything, it would make less sense for her to abandon him at this point, especially since she has, at this point, never even questioned leaving her father or turning against him. While her faith in him is shaken, she stands by him. How could she not? She's been with him this far, and considering that, why not bring him back to life, even though it's at the cost of others? This is war. People are going to die anyway. Why not use their deaths to revive the one person she cares about the most in this world? That is her thinking. Even if she disagrees with some actions Viren takes, and even if on some level she agrees with Soren when he says that their father is not the person he once was, she can't bring herself to abandon him. Viren supported her and cared for her, whereas Soren has something of a reputation for being a complete moron. To her, Viren is brilliant and loving, and he cares about the big picture. It would be wrong to expect that picture of him in her mind to completely shatter. She doesn't trust his little bug pal, and like Soren, she knows it's a major reason why he's deteriorated into the person he has become. But if Aaravos promised her the power to defend humanity and protect her father, she would take it. Now, I'm not saying Claudia's corruption needs to necessarily involve Aaravos. Her descent into darkness could occur without him, especially considering how disturbed she is by Soren's willingness to kill Viren to protect his king, Ezran. But Aaravos could take her into his grasp because she is desperate. The end of last season heralded the defeat of Viren and his allies. Claudia is alone and she's miserable. She only has her father with her because she brought him back from the dead, and her brother abandoned her. He's her enemy now. Callum and Ezran, her childhood friends, are her enemies now. She wishes it wasn't like this, but it is, and for her it has to be this way. There is no other choice. To side with Team Callum would mean to leave her father and stop fighting for what she believes is the good of humanity. With Viren weakened, she needs to take a leading role. If she doesn't, it could mean defeat for her side. She's a talented dark mage, but she is still only a teenager. If Aaravos offers to help her, I can definitely imagine a scenario in which she is despondent enough to take that help. I don't think she would rely on him as heavily as Viren does, but Aaravos knows how to manipulate people. He knows how to spot their weaknesses. And it's not like Claudia is free of weaknesses. She has already suffered so much loss and grief, and she is so isolated now. If you don't think Aaravos could exploit those weaknesses, I think you severely underestimate Aaravos. And he would likely need to manipulate her. To return to the second reason I outlined at the start of this video, Viren is increasingly useless to Aaravos. One could argue that now that Aaravos has spun a cocoon, he is less reliant on anyone, but I would push back against this idea. Cocoons are more vulnerable than caterpillars. The final form waits to emerge, but currently they are defenseless. Aaravos needs protection, and Viren is just a shell of his former self. It would be interesting if they did something where you're not quite yourself after being brought back by dark magic. You're only a fraction of what you once were. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes this route, in part because it fits with a lot of very old and widespread ideas about trying to bring people back from the dead. And number two, it fits with the show's interpretation of dark magic thus far. Merely using dark magic in the world of the Dragon Prince can wreak havoc on you. Claudia's moral deterioration is symbolized by half her hair turning white. I wouldn't be surprised if all her hair has turned white by the end of the series. If Viren finds himself weaker than he once was, I would not be surprised. But even if he is more or less the person he was at the end of Season 3 before he died, that person was a complete puppet for Aaravos. He had basically lost his mind. There was little evidence of the morally ambiguous person he had been. Playing with darkness eventually led to him losing his mind to that darkness. While I'm sure Aaravos appreciates how effectively he has been able to manipulate Viren, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaravos decides that Viren is insufficient for his long-term plans. In this case, he would need another soul to manipulate, that soul being Claudia. There's also another important reason why he might be tempted to turn Claudia to his whim. Because of what Viren did at the end of Season 3, he lost the respect of basically every character except Claudia. If the soldiers Viren turned into dark magic zombies remember the experience, and I see no reason why they wouldn't, they would likely not view that experience fondly, and they might turn against him. Viren has no legitimacy anymore. Claudia, however, does. While she is not universally viewed positively, especially after what she did in siding with Viren during the war, her reputation has not been as irrevocably stained as Viren's has. Because of this, she has the power to manipulate others. If she came to Team Callum and said she wanted to join them, they would accept her, and they would not expect she is planning to betray them. Callum, despite his being in a relationship with Rayla now, would be especially willing to view Claudia positively because of the crush he harbored for her since he was a kid. The ability of Claudia to earn the trust of those who would not trust Viren is likely the most appealing reason why Aaravos would want to manipulate her. Viren's foremost skills were as a speaker and as a tactician. His tactical skills have deteriorated now that he is completely in the thrall of Aaravos, and his speaking skills are mostly irrelevant because no one trusts him now after everything that happened. While Viren has served Aaravos well, he is far from the only member of that family who could be useful to Aaravos and could help Aaravos get what he wants. Aaravos can manipulate those who have a great capacity to rationalize, who have the tendency to say, "I'm not quite sure if what I'm doing is right, but if it'll get me to where I want to go, then I'll stick with it." Soren is not prone to rationalizing. If Aaravos tried to tempt him, it would not work. Despite Soren's lack of book smarts, he knows what is right. Claudia is far more prone to rationalizing. She could be swayed by Aaravos. This, combined with how advantageous it would be for Aaravos to take advantage of her, is a dangerous concoction. It's a dangerous combination. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. It is a fantastically nuanced and thoughtful show, and its strengths are only increasing as it goes along. I can't wait for Season 4, and I can't wait to see what Season 4 does with Claudia. She's a character whose moral decline is fascinating to watch, especially since part of you really understands where she's coming from. So thank you all again. Tune in soon for my next analysis. It should be coming soon-ish. Adios, comrades.